think I will ask God why for the rest of my life, and never will I come to understand it. Even if God himself came in front of me and told me the reason, I don't think I would accept it. Some loves are too hard to bear, and with great love comes great pain, and with great loss comes the greatest pain of all. If love could have saved you, you would have lived forever.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to my first episode of Peace of Ash. I'm so honored to be able to have your support and you here listening to me just yak about my personal life, and hopefully it'll help you with yours, and just know you are not alone. I wanted to take a moment to give a few disclaimers. This show will talk about physical and emotional abuse at some points. It will talk about infidelities, drug abuse, and loss of children. I just want to point that out just in case, different people have certain sensitivities to different topics. They will also be notated at the beginning of the episodes of what will be talked about in that episode, but we're also going to laugh and have a good time too. So no worries. You're going to laugh through my pain because I'm laughing at my pain too. A little bit about me is, if you didn't already know, my name is Ashley, which is where Piece of Ash came from. Of course, the piece of ash, yes, we meant it to sound a little spicy just to draw the viewers in. But once we were like, okay, piece of ash, we really switched it to peace, P-E-A-C-E, of ash, because that's what I truly have at this point. I'm 34 years old, and I have never felt more at peace with everything that's happened in my life. And I just want everyone around me, my loved ones, whether you're near or far, whether I know you or not, to reach a point in your life where no matter what has come along to destroy you in your path, that you have a peace too. The crazy thing is that whenever we pick the name of the podcast, like I said, we picked it for just funny purposes, kind of spicy. Shout out to Brogan. But whenever I put it into Chat GPT, don't hate me, people, if you're not for Chat GPT. I'm so sorry. You can DM me about it and tell me other resources. But whenever I put it into Chat GPT, I typed out no prompting at all. If you had a podcast that's name was Piece of Ash, what would that mean to you? ChatGPT confirmed that I should name my podcast this because it stated it is something that has risen from the ashes, where nothing was there anymore. You still made something, I guess, like the word ash, of course, with burning and fire. And so it was almost giving like inner phoenix energy. And that's like how I feel. I feel that the world has burned me. Humanity may have burned me, or people at the hands of people have burned me, but I have just arose from those ashes, and here I am today. I also want to say, if you are my children, it's time for you to skedaddle. You shouldn't even be on here anyways. And if you're my father, I probably wouldn't listen into this just because of the simple fact that you don't want to know what I did or what I've done. I mean, you're my dad. Love you so much, but this is not for you either. And my kids love y'all too. So moving on, the setting that we're in, if you're watching on YouTube, is Botanical Brew. Botanical Brew is a coffee shop that was made in 2020 during COVID by some of my good friends, and they opened their first location in Lyman. It's a coffee and a plant shop, plus it's Black-owned small business. I highly recommend you going and supporting their Lyman location or their new Spartanburg location. I have my drink here. This is my favorite. It's the Lava Flow. It's got strawberry and coconut in it, but I always mix a little Red Bull in case coffee gets too heavy. But it's delish. So make sure you stop by, buy a plant, come hang out. You'll probably see me working all the time, but don't talk to me when I'm working because I have ADD and I'm going to talk back and not get my work done. So if you can see me now, you'll see all the plants around here. They're all for sale. So make sure you support them. Tell them Ashley sent you and that you want to try the Lava Flow. But if you don't try the Lava Flow coffee-wise, I would recommend the Cloud. I would say it's 10 out of 10. It's great. So, moving on. Today's episode, I was thinking like back and forth about, do I want to just jump in and get deep with these people, or do I want to make it light and think to myself, what can I do to not scare these people? Honestly, but it wouldn't be me if it wasn't a crazy story. So I want to kind of start to like um, let y'all get a feel for who I am and like why I am this way. So if you know me personally, you know I'm so over exaggerated. I am dramatic. I'm loud. I just I life is life to me, and I just want to have a good time in life. So let's just jump right into it. I went through a terrible, terrible divorce. I would probably say about 3.5, 4 years ago. When I went through this divorce, it really was what pushed me to go to therapy. I tried to heal myself. I tried to, you know, handle my hurt in different ways. It just wasn't very productive. It didn't help at all. And I had my friends that was like, okay, go to the gym. Shout out to the gym. I appreciate you for telling me to go to the gym, but also I need to go to therapy. Me, I've been through plenty of trauma before this divorce. I really thought that I could be fine. Like, what do you mean I need therapy? I'm a strong, independent black woman. Well, half black, but you know what I mean. So I did it. I finally just bit the bullet and I said, okay, maybe I do need it. So I got therapy. Shout out to Ashley. She was Ashley too. She was my therapist. One of our first conversations that we had, she had told me to think back on my first memories of my parents. And obviously, if I'm in therapy, I'm thinking, why are we talking about my parents, right? I mean, I'm there because I was hurt. Like, I was cheated on. Like, I was robbed of almost a decade of my life as a wife, right? So I'm kind of frustrated. Like, why are we talking about my mom and dad? That's not why I'm here. I want you to fix me so that way I can move on, I can boss up, things like that. Like, make me not hate men, because that was really the point that I was at. But I want to just shed light on how helpful her tactics were and start at the very beginning. Like right now, that song, what is that song? I think it's Blackstreet. It's like, it's time to go back, way back in the time. Or I think that's like the intro of the song. Like that's like what's in my head right now. Sorry, I'm really ADD. So she said, "Hey Ashley, tell me the first memories of your parents." So in today's episode, we are going to talk about the first memories of my mom and what transpired. So my mom is a white woman. I just want to let everyone know that I'm biracial. My mom is white, my dad is black, and they had me at age 19, 20 years old. My father ended up raising me alone because my mom had drug issues, and we're going to dive a little bit more into that. I'm going to set the groundwork. Okay, so I said, let me think about the first memories I have of my parents. And I thought about it, and I really didn't have a first memory of my dad, but with my mom, the first memory I had was laying or going to these apartments. And I remember I was little, and I had to be like maybe 4 or 5. And I just remember her telling me, I'll be right back. And I'm in the car, and she said, I'm going to run upstairs. I'll be right back down. So I'm not thinking anything of it. Obviously, I'm a little girl. And I say, okay. I remember falling asleep. She went upstairs. I do remember waking up to an officer knocking on the window and saying, are you okay? Um, we're gonna get you out, blah blah blah. That something happened. I guess my mom fell asleep, which now I more so relate to overdosing. Upstairs, she got high and left me in the car. That's really the last memory, the first and the last memory I had of my mom. So, me as a little girl, nobody ever spoke about my mom past that day. So I assumed, because nobody ever talked to me about her, that she was dead. So if I'm 5 years old, you know, 4 or 5 years old, and nobody speaks of my mom, nobody talks about my mom, they just keep saying, like she was on drugs, she was this, she was that, and she just poof disappears out of my life, and nobody mentions her. I mean, I definitely wrote her off in my head as dead. Or I would have the occasional, this is going to sound so crazy, but I need y'all to remember my age. Um, I would occasionally see Pink, if y'all remember the artist Pink, with her platinum blonde hair on the TV screen, and I would be like, oh my gosh, that's my mom. That's why she's not here. She's famous and she's on the TV. I vividly remember this. And yes, my mom did have that haircut because she did like black men, and she did have the I have mixed kids haircut. She did. So not too much on my mom. But I definitely thought Pink was her for the longest. And then eventually I just like she's dead. She's homeless, she died, she whatever. So let's fast forward years later. I'm raised by my dad. I have a stepmom in the home. It was a pretty terrible childhood with in the household, and I'm just really just mad. At this point, I feel like I'm a teenager. I'm fighting the world. I'm not being loved correctly. I'm getting verbally and physically abused at home by my stepmom, and my dad worked second, third shift. He really didn't know to the extent what was going on, but life was hell for me. It was awful. So I just was going through middle school, elementary school, just, you know, living to die is pretty much, if I'm going to be honest. I didn't really feel important in the world. I just felt like that I was a punching bag and nobody really cared for me. Nobody really loved me. I felt that the only people that loved me was my mom's side of the family in Georgia. And thankfully, I still got to go down there every other weekend. But they still didn't really talk about my mom. And if there was anything about my mom that came up, it wasn't very positive about her past. So, um, So, like I said, we're going to fast forward. I was in the seventh grade at my local middle school, and a girl named Amber came up to me randomly one morning, and she said, and we had never talked. I didn't even know that she was in my middle school. I had no idea who this girl was. But she came up to me and she said, hey, are you Ashley? Yes. But when you're in middle school, and a girl comes up to you and is like, is this your name? And you don't know her, what are we automatically thinking? Like, oh, your boyfriend, my boyfriend, oh, what's going on? Is this going to be a little rift? Or maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just I automatically felt like, oh, what is I get defensive. And I say yes. And she said, I kid you not, y'all. We are in South Carolina. Same middle school. Two random girls. She hands me a letter and she says, your mom is Melanie, right? And I look at her and I said, yes. And she said, I have this letter for you. She's in the same prison cell as my mom in Atlanta. I need a sound effect, like bum bum. I know. Mouth dropped. This whole time, I've been thinking my mom was gone. I've been grieving a relationship and a person that nobody talked about. And then in seventh grade, get handed a letter from my very alive and well. Well, not well, she's in prison, but alive mother. I was so confused. I felt so many emotions, and maybe it was hormonal, but the first emotion I felt was anger. It was, it I felt lied to. I felt disrespected. I felt that, how could y'all not tell me? How could my father not tell me and talk to me about my mom? How could you just, how, why have I been suffering with this pain and this grief for a mom that's alive? But then, on the other half, I felt slighted. Like, you're alive and you didn't find me? You didn't come for me? You didn't save me when I was getting beat? You were choosing drugs while I'm abused? You you didn't even care about me? I was so mentally, I went through 1,000 different emotions and then just shocked. So I take this letter, and I'm still this way. I'm so impatient. Like, I, those people who like get a letter or a text message or an email, it's like, oh, later. No, I need to open it right now. You know what I mean? So I take the letter and I run to the bathroom, and in this envelope is like 6 pages of the most beautiful manuscript. And I know that like there's not like perfumes in prison, but I just remember just like rubbing it on my face. I know that's weird. I remember rubbing it on my face. I remember smelling it. It was, I just wanted to be with my mom. I just wanted to touch her. Like, she touched this paper. I want to touch it too. Like, I wanted her on me. I wanted to, and I guess it's kind of the similar feeling to where maybe if someone passes away and like you had a hoodie or a shirt and you just like would smell it, just smell them. But there was no smell. It just smelled like that beak pen, like the black one. And you know how that ink smells. Like it was just so strong because it was like 6 pages and it was like on this legal pad. And I just remember like I had tears running down my face in the bathroom. And I just remember like trying to read, but not wanting my tears to fall on the paper to ruin it because I just wanted to sleep with it. I wanted to cuddle. It was a weird feeling. I don't even know like how to put it into words. But as I'm reading it, I know I'm late for class. I'm sure the teachers have marked me tardy. I'm absent, whatever. I'm sitting in the bathroom stall sobbing, and I'm reading this letter, and it's saying, um, like, my lovely daughter, how I miss you. Like, just an outpouring of love that I had never experienced from a parent. And it was just how much she missed me, how she loved me, how she's done this time, how unfortunately like addiction is a disease, how she so badly wanted me. She has been trying to reach me and nobody would, or she never heard anything back, and all these things. And I just stopped because like I have my mama and I was like 12. Yeah, I was 12. And everyone knows as a woman in that age range, you hate your mom because Lord knows I've got a 13-year-old that like hates me. But when times get rough or you're hitting puberty and your period starts, who do you want? Your mom. And at this point, my father was a single dad, and it was just me and him again. And I was growing boobs. He didn't feel comfortable taking me to go get a bra. You know, he would tell me like layer my tank tops because I guess it was weird for him, which I understand. I remember I started my period, and I can remember when I walked in there in the living room and I told him, "Hey, Daddy, I started my period," and he told me, "Actually, okay, there's some paper towels in the closet." Like, what? Paper towels? You know, but as an adult, I look back and he truly, he was just doing the best with what he had. Like he had no idea what to do with a teenage girl. And I'm so if you're still listening, Father, I told you not to listen, but if you are here, I appreciate you still. But that was wild. Paper towels are in the closet. Whoa. But later on, I will say, one of my aunts ended up coming to the house, and I remember she said, "I heard you're a big girl now," or something like that, a woman now. And we went and got pads, and it was my aunt Sam. And when I tell you this pad went from my fingertips to my elbow, like, bless. That pad could have saved the people on the Titanic at the float station. Said we're gonna be. I mean, that thing was wrapped. Might as well went from my belly button to the top of my butt crack. It was the biggest pad I've ever seen. I don't even think we use those pads after childbirth, but she had me prepared, and everybody in my junior high or middle school could see me walking with that pad. I looked like a penguin. But still love you, Aunt Sam. If you're listening to this, I appreciate you for trying. But anyways, that's the type of child that I had to be raised by my father only. So, of course, like, as soon as I'm getting this, like, overly emotional letter from my mom, I'm like, yes, I'm friends with James, and, like, my dad. So, anyways, I go home, I have this letter, I don't tell my dad. In fact, I have a chip on my shoulder to my dad because I felt like if you kept this from me and you didn't tell me about her, you just let me be sad and just think these things, and it's just been a guessing game of where she's at, what she's been doing, if she's dead, if she's alive. You let me suffer. And at that point all fingers was on him. I was just I had lost respect for him. And that is really hard for me to say as a 34-year-old mom. I'm trying not to get emotional, um, because you never had gave up on me when you could have walked away. He was a single black father, and not only was he a single black father, but he also was paralyzed from the waist down from a shooting incident um, at 22 years old. And he still chose me and not to get on disability and show me that I can keep going in life. And he was young. He didn't know what to do with me, and I didn't respect him. Once I got that letter, and I loved him as my dad, but I just remember having so much anger. And now, like, as an adult, it hurts the heart, that I felt that way about him. But anyways, I continued to write my mom. What the plan was with me and Amber was every time she wrote her mom, she would send a letter, and I would send my letter with her. And then every time our mom would respond back, and then they would send letters back to us. So we would just exchange at school. Turns out that my mom, of course, was on her drug charges, and her mom was in on drug charges. And I believe that her mom has now passed away. Rest in peace to her mom. I would probably have met my mom if it wasn't for her. But rest in peace to her. And but yeah, my mom was in for a lot of things. And at this point, I'm still very young. I'm being immature. I think I'm just gullible because I'm believing everything that's on paper. I'm believing that my mom really loves me and she was just caught up in the wrong place, wrong time, and she just succumbed to her addiction. Little did I know, my mom was a fraudster. She was a big time scammer. She could like wire different bank accounts. She was a hacker. She was a big time drug dealer in Metro Atlanta. Meth was her drug of choice. She went from not only cooking meth, selling meth, to using it. That's how she became a drug addict. But there was so much more with her than just, hey, I'm a drug addict, on paper. And I didn't know that. So I started building up this love for my mom. Of course, prison talk. It just made me feel like I was floating. I was on top of the world. I was so happy to just have her back. So I devised a plan to basically move in with her when she got out of prison because I wanted to just experience my mom. The good thing was when we reconnected, she had only had about a year left on her sentence. So it was putting me like in the like eighth grade. Um, yeah, end of eighth grade. So over the year, about like I said, the year and a half, I purposely started being very disrespectful to my dad. I had always been a goody two shoes, always been like, yes sir, no sir. I never did anything. I never snuck out. I was scared of him. He may have been in a wheelchair, but let me tell you, he is scary. And if you know my daddy, like his biceps are the size of my head. He works out at the gym. He can probably lift like 5 of your boyfriends. He also played wheelchair basketball, was MVP. He can shooting basketball, playing basketball, going up and down the court, like very in shape to not have any use of his legs. And he he was swinging the belt. He wasn't abusive. He wasn't abusive, but when it was whooping time, oh, that wheelchair didn't stop anything when it came to getting the butt whooping. But I'd always listen to him. I'd always just try to be the respectful daughter that listened to her dad. I think I just really wanted to. I was the oldest, so I have the oldest daughter syndrome. If y'all know about that, and I think I always just wanted to make him love me because, like I said, remember I had my stepmom, and then I had my siblings, and I just felt like I was the punching bag for my siblings to have a happy family because my stepmom hated me and my mom, and so I just wanted to be accepted by my dad and be loved like I felt like he loved my siblings. And at that point, I didn't care anymore because I had my mom. My mom was going to love me. Whether you did or not, whether my stepmom did or not, I got my mom now. So I showed my ass for about a year. I was sneaking out. I was doing ratchet hood rat stuff with my friends, or what I thought was my friends, my cousins. I took a lot of the brunt for some stuff my cousins were doing. And, they, like, I really, like, I wasn't doing drugs or anything. And that's the thing, like, I know that was his biggest fear. He didn't want me to fall into the same path as my mom. But you can, like, cite my resources. I actually did not do drugs. And I know that sneaking out and doing hood rat stuff and all these things in his mind probably looked so terrible, but really it was like going to the gas station or going to Waffle House, like sneaking out, going to Waffle House, and like coming back. Like, it wasn't like I'm going out snorting cocaine. Like, I just wanted to say that, but I didn't care what he said. Like, there were some times where I would sneak out, and thank God we didn't have a ring camera. Hold on, pause. Just for I don't want to be called a liar. Just for purposes, I will say I never did drugs, but there were these things called triple C's. I don't know if y'all remember those. There were these girls that I went to high school with, or no, not high school, middle school with, and they kind of like peer pressured me. I was like called a lame. Like, if you ever call my dad, I don't think I understand. I had baggy pants. My pants could never be too tight. My shirts could never like come below my boobs. My tank tops had to be go what is this? Your collarbone to my shoulder. I mean, I was like a little Amish kid, like a little nun baby. I couldn't do anything. If I looked at the out the window, Dad was like, "What boy are you looking at?" Like I wasn't even allowed to talk on the phone. Like boys would purposely call my house phone just like on group calls, or what was it called? Not group calls. What was that called? Three-way. They would call my house on three-way just to listen to my daddy cuss them out. It was a hoot. People were laughing at me in school. In like 8th grade, they'd be like, "Hey, Mr. Fred, can we speak to Ashley?" At like 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd wake up before school, get a whooping because they would call just for shits and giggles. I don't. But anyway, so like that's the kind of dad. Well, I got peer pressure because I was such a nerd and like I had like a gap I could put 2 quarters in. I was still wearing my glasses, and they just were like, "Actually, you're so lame. You're so lame." Okay, that's fine. Well, then um, they had this was popular to take while we were in school. It was called triple C. If you are an 09er, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. It was those little red pills, and they have the 3 C's on them, and you can get them from the pharmacy. And it was called triple C's. Well, we called them triple C's. It was like cough, cold, congestion, and you were supposed to only take 2, but people in my class were taking 6, 8, 10, 12. Because it gave you a feeling of being drunk. So I never did drugs, but I did do those one time. In case anybody wants to clock me, I did do those one time because of the girls. They told me I was lame, and I just wanted to be included. So yes, I did do those. Sorry, Dad, if you're still listening. But it just gave me a drunk feeling. I threw up. It was really dizzy in the middle of the hall. Never again did I take those. And after I took those, I had no plans to ever take like any type of like ecstasy or anything. Moving on. So as I'm starting to rebel against my dad and do these things, and I started having like my attitudes with him. I was frustrated. He would say I'm grounded. I don't even care because I want you to kick me out anyway. I'm still gonna do what I'm gonna do because when my mama gets out, it's sayonara. Because I knew he was not gonna just drop me off in the house when she got out of jail. So, anyways, time's passing. I'm slowly building up. I'm working my way to my big ones of how I'm going to get out of this house to go live with my mama in Georgia. So she gets out, and I'm gonna go sneak out one night. There was 2 of my cousins, a guy, and another girl that I used to hang out with. They come to pull up at my house, and they were gonna pick me up. We were gonna sneak out, but I didn't have a cell phone, and they couldn't call the house phone. Like I said, my dad worked second shift, so he was like in the living room, probably dozing off because he had just got off work, trying to relax. Well, since we didn't have a cell phone, the only way that we used to sneak out was they would knock on the window. Well, instead of sending my cousin to get me, they sent the other guy. So the other guy comes to my window, and where my bedroom window was, here's my window. Here's the middle of the house, or like the siding of the house, and then here's my gate. Because, mind you, I lived in a nice neighborhood with an HOA, an in-ground pool, and a nice house. I need you to write that down. And I wanted to live with my mom, who is a 2-time felon drug addict. I know. It doesn't make sense, but I wanted my mom. So, anyways, here's my window, here's the gate to the pool, and then here's my living room window. My light was off because I'm supposed to be asleep. The living room light is on because my daddy's in there. Instead of my cousins coming and going to the window that they know is mine, they send the boy that was in the car. Guess what window he knocks on? I'm going to give you a minute to answer. Ding, ding, ding. The one with the light on. Knocks on the window. I hear my dad. Holy cannoli. I want to insert another word. I am laying in the bed because obviously I'm waiting. I knew that they were probably going to get there around like 12 a.m. I'm laying in the bed and I'm like, oh my God. He just knocked on the wrong window. Then I heard him say, Ashley, we're outside. Ashley, are you coming? Because we don't have a phone. I don't have a cell phone. And here comes my daddy in my room. Because my daddy was shot and he's in a wheelchair, he is very, very, very gun friendly. He believes in guns. He's a collector of guns. He will always have a gun on him. I'm telling y'all right now, if you ever come across my dad or if he's in the building with you, do not fear. Fred is there, and there's also a gun in that wheelchair. Oh my God, that light is a wrap. That should be a caption of a picture. Now I'm telling you right now, he is strapped. We grew up with guns all over the house because obviously, he has a disadvantage when it comes like with his legs. So there's guns everywhere in my daddy's house. He comes, like I said, my daddy ain't no joke. He comes around and he cocks a gun, and there is a silhouette of the guy outside the window. And he's going, Ashley, hurry up, we're in the car or we're going to leave you. Y'all, my dad has that gun to his forehead, and nothing is separating him and that gun than just my window. And he says, who is it? Actually, there's somebody outside your window. He thinks it's somebody that's like trying to get me. I guess maybe because I stay at home by myself when he works second shift. He doesn't know what is going on. But that's my fault, obviously. Like, I'm an idiot, but it just didn't go as planned. And next thing you know, before he runs off, I say, Daddy, no, please don't. And he goes, who is that? And I say, beep, beep. I'm not going to mention my cousin's names, but I say, everybody's outside. I was just going to sneak out. And he goes, hey, about killing a little boy. Oh my God, it was awful. Awful. And yes, I'm so sorry to the person that this happened to. He had no idea. Like, it was about to be bad. I just cried because it was just something that went completely south. It went wrong. And we were just literally just gonna sneak out. Like I said, sometimes they smoke weed. At this point, I had never smoked weed in my life. But they would smoke weed and then we would just go to Waffle House or go hang out in Walmart parking lot, or it was like so innocent in my mind, but so dangerous how this boy almost lost his life. At this point, like not even a lot years old. Like he was older than us, and like that. I just think about that, my son, and what was I doing? Well, anyways, after that, the next morning, my dad pretty much told me, pack your shit, you're getting out of my house. Like, he almost killed somebody for me, doing dumb stuff. Okay. I'm sad that went south, but I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. I'm going to my mama's. At this point, he found out my mom got in jail. I had met her already. I picked her up from the bus stop when she got out of prison with my family in Georgia. So he knows, like, she's out. I forgot that part. But I am so excited. So I'm, like, packing up my stuff. We go to my school. We get my transcript. Like, I am smiling ear to ear on my way to Georgia, y'all. I was so happy to leave y'all suckers in South Carolina. Okay. Remember I said we lived in a nice neighborhood with the in-ground pool in the back, the gated, whatever, the gated around it, like nice house, nice yard, good house. But we pull in Georgia, and we have, the townhomes where it's like the not so nice townhomes, and like the kittens and the pit bull puppies with the hanging down nipples, and the huskies are outside, and cars that are on all flats or parked in the yard, but they got rust stains, and then you hear people yelling, and it just smells like cat piss everywhere. That was where we pulled up. I was shocked, but I saw my mama. She was like a little, like 5 foot blonde headed lady, and it took all my worries away. I took all my stuff out my dad's car, and I said, "Okay, bye." And there started my life with my mom. At this point, she was fresh out of prison, and we were living with my grandma, which was her mom. Rest in peace. She was a pill head and an alcoholic. She could probably dump a case of Bush's 12 pack in one night, and she also popped pills. And she would vacuum the same spot in the townhome, no lie, for probably about 3 hours. I don't know what alcohol and a pill has to do with your motor skills, but back and forth. She would just vacuum for hours and just keep drinking. And she was also married or dating at that time a guy named, well, I wasn't going to name drop. We'll call him Bob. Well, I don't want to call him Bob. That's my grandpa's name. What should we call him? William. She was dating a William, and he was like a 6'7" guy. I know that he was like abusive with her in the past, and he had also gotten in trouble for like being a vegan. And that's who I moved in with. So I'm sharing a bed with my mother in a 2-bedroom townhome. So sharing a bed with my mother in a queen size. We used to cuddle. I just remember her smelling like marble menthols. She loved those. And my grandma and her boyfriend William were in the room next to us, and we all shared one bathroom. And we probably have 4 cats. And then we just had downstairs. And I just remember starting school the next day. And that's what started my life in Georgia. And that is where I'm going to cut it, because we have a lot more to cover about my life in Georgia. So I don't want to spoil it all in one episode. And I feel like y'all have been listening to me yap nonstop this whole time about everything. I'm so happy if you're still listening. Hopefully I didn't scare you off. But on the next episode, we are going to talk about what it was like living in Georgia, how I came across my son's father, and what a crazy mess that was, and what life was like before I came back to South Carolina. So thanks for listening to the Piece of Ash episode number 1, and I can't wait for next week for you to get episode number 2. See you guys later. Bye.